created by cable.
Thanks, Elise. Go vote now. Appreciate it. Thank you. Let's hear it for Elise Stefanik. Huh?
Mari memberi penghargaan pada Elise Stefanik.
Don't forget to go vote.
Jangan lupa untuk
Thank you
memilih.
for your indulgence and thank you for your
Terima
patience. We
kasih
have votes on the
atas
floor right now.
kesabaran Anda.
I want to thank
Kita
Elise
sudah
Stefanik.
memiliki suara.
She is
Saya ingin
inspiring.
berterima
I also
kasih
want to
pada
thank
Elise Stefanik.
all of you for
Saya
coming here
juga
today.
ingin berterima kasih
I want
pada
to thank
Anda
Kevin
semua
Brady, my
yang telah
friend,
hadir di sini.
the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee,
Dan
for hosting us
Ketua
here today.
Komite Ways and
I had
Means.
the privilege of joining this committee in my second
Saya
term,
sangat beruntung
My seat was
untuk
right
berada
behind
di
these
komite
flags.
ini.
and it's a perfect setting
Ini adalah
for what I want to talk
kesempatan
with you today
yang
about.
baik untuk
Because it is here,
mengatakan pada Anda
in this
karena
committee,
di
that we
komite
debate some of
ini
the biggest, most
kita
consequential issues.
memperdebatkan beberapa
debate our
masalah
tax code,
penting
healthcare,
tentang kode
trade,
pajak,
entitlement reform,
kesehatan,
welfare reform.
reformasi hak.
This is a big deal to be on this committee.
Ini adalah hal
People
besar untuk
strive to get
berada
on
di
this
komite
committee.
ini.
And understanding the privilege and the
Dan
responsibility that came
memahami
along with
hak
it,
dan tanggung jawab,
we took our jobs very seriously
kita
here on this
bekerja
committee.
dengan serius di komite
And we
ini.
always held ourselves to a
Kita
higher
selalu
standard of decorum.
meningkatkan standar
We treated
kesopanan.
each other with respect.
Kita
We
menghormati orang
disagreed,
lain.
often fiercely so.
Kita sering
But
tidak
we
setuju,
disagreed without
tapi
being disagreeable.
kita
I
tidak
speak of
setuju
this in the
tanpa
past
menjadi
tense
tidak
only
menyenangkan.
because I no longer serve here in the Ways and Means Committee. But it almost sounds like I'm, speaking of a different time, doesn't it? It sounds like a scene unfamiliar to many in your
Ini
generation.
mungkin terlihat kurang
Looking around at
familiar
what's
di
taking
generasi
place in
Anda
politics today,
melihat apa yang ada di
It
politik
is
saat ini.
so easy to get
Sangat mudah
disheartened.
untuk berkecil hati.
How many of you find yourself just
Seberapa
shaking your head
sering
at what you see
kalian
from both sides
mendapati
of the
diri
aisle these
Anda
days?
menggelengkan kepala terhadap apa yang kalian lihat?
I see myself in each and every one of you.
Saya melihat
I
diri
came
saya
here
di
as a
setiap diri
curious
Anda
college
semua.
intern, trying to get a sense of everything, trying
Mencoba
to
memahami
figure out, where
semuanya,
to take my own life.
mencari tahu
I
kemana
would
arah
always
hidup
ask older,
saya.
more experienced people,
Saya selalu bertanya
What
pada
do
yang
you
lebih
know now
berpengalaman. Apa
that you
yang
wish
kamu
you
tahu
knew when you were
sekarang
my
adalah
age?
apa yang ingin kamu
Well,
tahu.
Here's my answer to that question.
Ini adalah jawaban
Here's
untuk
what I know
pertanyaan itu.
now that I want you to
Ini
know,
yang aku tahu sekarang dan aku ingin kalian
that you
tahu.
cannot maybe see yourself today.
Kamu
And this is
mungkin
not just
tidak
a lesson for
bisa
young
melihat
minds,
dirimu
but a
hari ini.
message for all Americans. Our political discourse, both
Kondisi
the
politik
kind that we
kita,
see on TV
baik yang
and the
kita lihat
kind
di
that we experience
televisi
among each other,
maupun yang
it
kita
did not
alami,
used to be this bad. And it
itu
does
tidak
not
harus
have to
jadi
be this
seburuk
way.
ini dan tidak harus
Now,
menjadi
a little
seperti ini.
skepticism, that is really healthy.
Dan keraguan ini
But when people
mungkin
distrust
terasa
politics,
wajar, tapi ketika orang
come
sudah
to
tidak
distrust
mempercaya
institutions.
politik, mereka
They
tidak
lose faith in
mempercaya
government.
institusi.
They lose faith in our future.
Mereka hilang
We can acknowledge
kepercayaan
this.
terhadap masa depan kita.
But we don't have to accept this.
Kita
And we
tidak
can't
bisa
enable it
menerima
either.
ini.
My dad used to always say,
Ayahku
You
selalu berkata,
are either part of the
kamu
problem
adalah
or
bagian
part of the
dari
solution.
masalah atau bagian
One
dari
or the
solusi.
other.
Salah satu dari
So I have made it
keduanya.
my mission as speaker to raise our gaze and aim for a brighter horizon.
Mengangkat
Instead
pandangan
of talking
kita
about what politics
pada
is
hal yang
today,
lebih cerah.
I want to talk with you about what politics can be.
Saya ingin membahas
I want to talk about what our
politik akan
country
menjadi
can be,
apa.
about what our founders envisioned it would be.
Tentang visi para
America.
pendiri kita. Amerika
America is the only nation founded
Amerika
on
adalah
an idea,
satu-satunya negara yang berdiri di atas
not
ide,
on an
bukan
identity.
di atas identitas.
That idea is a
Dan
beautiful idea.
ide itu
The
sangatlah
condition of
indah.
your birth does not determine the outcome of your life.
Kondisi kamu dilahirkan
Our
bukan
rights are
kondisi
natural. They're
kehidupan kamu.
God-given.
Hak
They're not
kita
coming from
diberikan
government.
oleh Tuhan, bukan dari
Now, while it
pemerintah.
was a beautiful idea,
Dan ini adalah
it had never
ide
been
yang
tried
sangat
before.
indah yang belum pernah
early
dicoba.
on, our founders fought to establish a
Para
suitable order.
pendiri sebelumnya
They decided that we would not maintain this idea by force. In the first Federalist chapter, in the
Di
first
bab
Federalist paper,
federalis yang
Alexander
pertama,
Hamilton, he wrote that in
Alexander
politics,
Hamilton
it is absurd to
menulis
aim
bahwa
at making
politik
converts by fire or sword. Instead, we would govern ourselves with the people's consent. Again, there was no manual for how to do this. That's
tidak
why
ada
we call this
petunjuk
whole
untuk
thing the
melakukan
American
ini.
experiment.
Karena itu kita
It is
sebut ini
still
dengan
the American
pengalaman orang
experiment.
Amerika.
So they made each other.
Dan
And they made
mereka
those who
saling
came after
membentuk.
take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Every generation since
Setiap
has inherited this
generasi telah
responsibility.
mewariskan tanggung jawab.
Leaders with different visions and ideas
Para
have come and
pemimpin
gone.
dengan beragam ide dan
Parties
visi
have
telah
risen and
berganti-ganti.
Majorities
Partai-partai,
in White Houses won and
mayoritas
lost.
dan gedung putih menang dan
But the
kalah.
way we govern endures.
Tapi
through
cara
debate,
kita
not
memerintah tidak
This
terganggu.
is the one thing about our country.
Ini adalah satu
This is
hal
one of the
tentang
most
negara
important things about our
kita,
country
satu
that
hal
makes it
yang
the
paling
greatest on earth.
penting tentang negara kita
must
yang
admit,
membuatnya
I didn't always find this
terbaik di
idea so
dunia.
exciting when I was young. As I said, I came to Washington unsure of what I was going to do with my life. And then I ended up working for a guy named Jack
Saya
Kemp.
bekerja pada
You may have heard
seorang
of him.
bernama Jack Kemp.
He went on to represent the people from Washington, or from Western New York, but he was a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. One of the great quarterbacks of his time. And then he represented the Buffalo area in
Dia
Congress
mewakili
in the
area
1970s and the
Buffalo di
1980s.
Kongres
He
di
served in the cabinet under
1970
President H.W. Bush. And like me, he
dan
was one of our party's
seperti
nominees
saya,
for vice
dia
president.
adalah salah satu
I first
nominasi
met
wakil
Jack Kemp
presiden.
exactly where you would
Saya
expect, at
pertama kali
Tortilla
bertemu
Coast.
dengan Jack Kemp di Tortilla Coast.
It was true. I was waiting tables, you know, like
Saya
you. I had
sedang
student
menunggu
loans coming out of
meja.
school. I had a few jobs, and I was a waiter, and I waited on Jack Kemp.
Aku adalah
didn't bother
pelayan
him that
dan
day.
melayani
But
Jack
I
Kemp.
told a friend, one day I
Tapi
would love
aku
to have the chance of
memberitahu
working for that
temanku,
man.
satu hari aku
And
akan
as luck would have
memiliki
it, such an opening
kesempatan
came up.
untuk bekerja
The thing about Jack
dengannya.
was that he was an optimist
Hal
all the way.
tentang Jack adalah
He
dia adalah
refused to
sosok yang
accept that
optimis.
any part of America or the American idea could ever be written off. Here was a conservative willing, no,
Ini
here
adalah
was a
keinginan yang
conservative eager
konservatif.
to go to America's bleakest
Ini adalah
communities
keinginan
and talk about
konservatif.
how free enterprise would lift people out of poverty. These were the areas of the country that had not seen a Republican leader in years, if ever. I had the chance to accompany Jack on some of these visits. I
Saya
saw
punya
how people took to
kesempatan
him.
untuk
I
menemani
saw how
Jack
he
dan
listened,
beberapa
how he took new
kunjungannya.
lessons from each experience. He found common cause with poverty fighters on the ground. Instead
Dia
of a
menemukan
sense of
penyebab
drift,
umum
I, at that time,
kemiskinan.
began to feel a sense of purpose. Jack inspired me to develop my professional life.
Jack
to public
menginspirasi
policy.
saya
It
untuk
became a
berkembang.
vocation to me.
Ini menjadi
Ideas.
pekerjaan saya.
Passionately promoted, put to the test. That's what politics can be. That's
Politik bisa
what our
menjadi
country can
seperti
be.
itu. Negara kita
It
bisa
can be
menjadi
a
seperti
confident
itu.
America, where we
Kita
have a
bisa
basic
jadi
faith in
Amerika yang
politics
percaya
in our
diri,
leaders. That sounds like a long
yang
distance
percaya
from where we
pada
are right now,
politik
doesn't it?
pemimpin kita.
It can be a place where we have earned that
Ini
faith.
bisa jadi titik
All of
di mana
us
kita
as leaders,
mengumpulkan kepercayaan.
all of us as leaders can hold ourselves to the highest standards of integrity and decency. Instead of playing to your anxieties, we can appeal to your aspirations.
Kita bisa
Instead of playing the
menarik
identity politics of
aspirasi.
our base versus their base, we unite people around ideas and principles.
Kita menyatukan orang
And instead
dengan
of being
ide dan
timid,
prinsip.
we
Daripada
go bold.
ragu,
We don't
kita
just
harus
resort to
berani.
scaring you.
Kita tertantang
We
untuk
dare to
menginspirasi
inspire you.
Anda.
We don't
Kami
just
menawarkan
oppose someone or
alternatif yang
something.
jelas.
We propose a clear and compelling
Kami-
alternative. And we don't just win your support. We win the argument. We win your
Kami
enthusiasm.
memenangkan argumen,
We win hearts and
antusias,
minds. We win a
hati dan
mandate to do
pikiran.
what needs to be done to protect the American idea. In a confident America,
Di
we also
Amerika
have
yang
a basic
percaya
faith
diri,
in one another.
kita saling
That's one of the most
percaya.
important lessons I'd love to confer
Itu
to you.
hal yang paling penting bagi saya.
We question each other's ideas
Kita
vigorously,
hanya menanyakan ide
but we
satu sama
don't
lain.
question each other's motives. If someone has a bad idea,
Ketika seseorang
we don't
memiliki
think that they're a
ide
bad
yang
person.
buruk, kita hanya
we just think
berpikir
they have
itu
a
ide
bad
buruk.
idea. People with different ideas, they're not
Orang
traitors.
dengan ide yang berbeda
They're not our
bukan
enemies.
lawan.
They're our neighbors, they're our coworkers, they're our fellow
Mereka
citizens.
tetangga, mereka adalah
Sometimes they're our
keluarga.
friends, sometimes they're even our own flesh and blood,
Terkadang
right?
mereka adalah
We all know someone who we love who disagrees with us politically or who votes differently. But in a confident America,
tapi di Amerika yang
we are not
percaya
afraid to
diri,
disagree with each
kita
other. We don't look
tidak takut
ourselves
untuk
or
tidak
lock
menyetujui.
ourselves into an echo chamber. We don't go into the echo chamber where we just tell us what we want to hear. where we take comfort in the dogmas and the opinions that we already hold. We don't shut down on people, and we don't shut people down.
Menjatuhkan
If
orang
someone has a
lain.
bad idea, well, why don't we tell them why our idea is
Kenapa
better?
tidak kita
We don't insult them
memberitahu
into agreeing with
kenapa
us.
ide kita lebih
We try to
baik?
persuade them. We test their
Kita mencoba
assumptions.
memujuk
And while we're
mereka.
at it, we test our own assumptions too.
Kita
You know,
menguji
I'm
asumsi
certainly not
kita
going to
juga.
stand here and tell you that I have always met this standard myself. There was a time that I would talk about a
Ada
difference
saya
between
saat
makers and
saya
takers in
akan
our country,
bicara tentang
referring to
perbedaan
people who accepted government benefits. But as I
mengarah
spent
ke
more
orang
time
yang
listening,
menerima manfaat
really
pemerintah.
learning the root causes of poverty, I realized something. I realized
Saya
that I was
menyadari
wrong.
sesuatu. Saya menyadari
Takers
bahwa saya telah
wasn't
salah.
how to refer to a single mom stuck in a poverty trap, trying to take care of her own family. Most people don't want to be dependent. And to label a
Kebanyakan
whole
orang
group
tidak
of
mau
Americans that way
bergantung.
was wrong. I shouldn't castigate a large group of Americans just to make a point.
Aku tidak
So I stopped
menghukum
talking
kelompok
about it that way.
tertentu
And I stopped thinking about it that way.
dan saya berhenti
But I didn't come out
memikirkan itu.
and say this to be politically correct. I say this
Saya
because
tidak
I was just
berkata
wrong.
ini benar secara politik.
And of course,
Saya berkata
there
karena
are still going to be
saya
signs
salah.
where I and you and we say things that we wish we hadn't. There are still going to be times when I follow the wrong impulse. Governing ourselves was never meant to be easy. This has always been a tough business. And when passions flare, ugliness is sometimes inevitable. But we shouldn't accept ugliness as the norm. We
Kita
should
tidak
demand
bisa
better from
menerima
ourselves.
keburukan
We
sebagai
should demand
norma.
better from one another. We should think about the great leaders that have bestowed upon us the opportunity to live the American idea. We should honor their legacy.
Kita
We should
harus
build
percaya pada
that more
idenya.
confident America.
Kita
This,
harus
as much as
membangun
anything,
Amerika yang
is
percaya
what
diri.
makes me an optimist. In knowing that ideas can inspire a country and help people. Long before I worked for him, Jack Kemp had a tax plan that he was incredibly passionate about. You have to remember this about Jack Kemp. He wasn't even on the Ways and Means Committee, the committee here that writes all our tax laws. Republicans were deep in the minority back then. So the odds of it going anywhere seemed remotely low, awfully low. But he was like a dog with a bone. He believed passionately in his ideas, even though the odds were stacked against him. He took that plan to any audience that he could get in front of. He pushed it so hard that he eventually
Dia sangat
inspired our party's
mendorongnya.
nominee for president, Ronald Reagan, to adopt it as his own. And in 1981,
Dan
the
di
Kemp-Roth tax bill was signed into law,
1981,
lowering
peraturan
tax
itu
rates, spurring growth, and
ditandatangani
putting millions of American families back to
yang
work.
mengembalikan jutaan
All it took
keluarga kembali
was someone to
bekerja.
put policy on paper, someone willing to put an idea on paper and to promote it passionately. This is the basic concept behind the policy
Ini
agenda
adalah
that
konsep
House Republicans are
dasar
building right now.
di balik
As leaders,
kebijakan.
we have an obligation to put our best ideas
Kita
forward, no matter
memiliki
the consequences.
obligasi untuk
With
mengutamakan
so much at
ide.
stake, the American people deserve a very
Amerika
clear
pantas
picture of
mendapatkan
what we
gambaran yang
believe.
jelas dari
of what
apa
we
yang
would do.
mereka percayai.
Personalities come and go, but principles endure. Ideas endure, ready to inspire generations yet to be born. That's the thing about politics. We think of
adalah
politics in
tentang
terms of this
politik.
vote or this election, but it can be so much more than that.
Bukan hanya tentang
Politics
pemilihan,
can be a
tapi
battle of
lebih dari
ideas,
itu.
not a battle of insults.
Politik
It can be
bisa
about
menjadi perang
solutions.
ide.
It can be about making a difference.
Ini bisa jadi
It can be
sebuah
about
solusi.
always striving to do better. That's what it can be, and that's what it should
Itu
be.
yang bisa terjadi dan
This
harusnya
is the
terjadi.
system our
Ini
founders
adalah
envisioned.
sistem visi
It's
pendiri
messy.
kita.
It's
Sangat
complicated.
sulit.
It is
sangat rumit.
infuriating at times, but it's a beautiful thing too.
Tapi ini
Thank you
adalah
all
hal
for
yang
being here
indah.
today. Really
Terima
appreciate
kasih
it.
karena telah berada di sini hari ini. Saya sangat menghargainya.